All right. Thanks, everybody, for jumping on this evening. As Jen said, we are Matt and Jen Oxford, certified Optavia coaches. Jen wanted to set up this weekly series that was going to go for the next 6 weeks to kind of share a little bit about her knowledge in the counseling field that she is in, and to kind of just help people realize some different key elements that we have also relearned, or I've learned for the first time, and Jen is now reapplying. So we're excited. Everyone has jumped on, and yeah, so go for it, hon.
Okay, so we titled this The Art of Transformation because as we talk about, when I went to convention a couple weeks ago, we talked about the concept of transforming masterfully, and that really spoke to me because a lot of us are trying to transform and it doesn't look so masterful. And I thought, I really wish I could share the things I know about change and about that process. And so we're gonna get started. The model that I'm using is the stages of change model. You can look it up on the internet. I'm not making this stuff up. It's all pretty normal. But I have learned after years of therapy that we have to figure out where we're at to get to where we want to go. And so tonight we're going to talk, I'm going to introduce the concept of the stages of change, and then I'm going to go over the very first stage of change. So Matt's going to share our screen real quick because I made you a PowerPoint. Hold on just a second.
You're good. Keep going.
I need you to click past the next one. That's my technical advisor. Okay, so there are 6 stages of change. And we put you up on the slide. We're going to do 1 stage a week. And hopefully you guys will join us for all 6 weeks because there's a lot of good information. But today, we're going to start with pre-contemplation. And that means when people are not even considering changing their behaviors. And then the next week, we'll work on contemplation, which means that we're starting to think we might want to maybe try. The third stage is preparation. And preparation means that we're starting to gain some, testing the waters. It's like dipping your toe in. And I really like the stages of change model because you'll find that the first 3 stages of change, almost nobody notices. Just you. It's about what's going on inside of your head and your heart and what's moving you forward. And then the next stage of change is action, right? So we're almost to the end and we're finally starting to take some action. And then we've got maintenance. How do we go from action? And we get this question all the time. How do I maintain my changes? Like when I get there, when Matt and I get there to our goals, how are we going to maintain? And one of the reasons I know that the Optavia program works is because they know how to set up maintenance and they know how to help people maintain change. And then the last week, we're going to talk about relapse because it is a normal part of change. If you think you're going to get through all of this and you're not going to have problems, I hate to be the one to burst your bubble, but we are going to struggle. And that's a big part of understanding the change process and knowing how and when to get back up and how and when to kind of refine what you're doing. And so those are the 6 stages. And like I said, we're going to do 1 a week. So today we'll get started. Oh, I wanted to show you one more picture of the stages of change because some of us are a little more visual and this will help you. So these are the 5 stages of change. It doesn't show relapse because relapse just means we've probably gone back to the first or second stage. You see the first guy sitting there and he looks like a lot of us. Every night after work, right? We're just sitting there and watching TV. That's what Matt and I were doing 8 months ago. We were just sitting there watching TV and we were like, nope, not me. We were not interested in our health, not because we didn't care, but really, and we'll share more of our story later, because we didn't believe it was possible. And that's just part of understanding how change works is that some people are there and we don't believe it's possible. The second guy is saying, well, maybe. He's thinking about change. We think about change all the time. We do it in the shower. We do it while we're running errands. We think about our friends and families changing all the time. So this is a normal stage. And so we're going to talk about what that looks like. The third stage of change is I want to change, but I have no idea what to do. And I love working with these people because they are ready to try. They're motivated and they're ready to try. The fourth stage of action, you can see him walking up the steps. he's ready to go. He's doing it. And at this point, and this is why we need to remember this, that in the first 3 stages of change, because nobody else is seeing what's going on in your mind and heart, you're not hearing good feedback. But by action, people are starting to notice. They're like saying, you look different, or you're acting different, or what you got going on, and they want to ask questions. And so that stage of change with action is really important to understand how to be in action, how to be okay with not being perfect, and how to be able to move forward and get to that maintenance section. And that maintenance, right? I love the little calendar because we know it's possible. And I want everyone to feel like change is possible. I want everyone to feel like they can succeed. And I love this process because I work with a lot of teenagers, and they are really good at telling you what's impossible. And I love seeing them open up and see that the impossible is actually really possible. And if we make small steps, and we're going to talk about that a lot tonight, then we're going to get there. All right, so we're going to talk first stage of change. You don't have to memorize the word. You just have to remember the idea, and that is, it's nope, not me. I'm not changing. And I just want to share a really quick story. And you guys are welcome to use the chat feature. If you have questions, Matt's trying to monitor that for me. And we want to know if there's things you have questions about, but I'll tell you a little story. So Matt and I have dealt with infertility for the 6 years we've been married, and that's not easy. And we finally got to the point where we were dealing with a fertility specialist, and we went in and she looked at us and she said what every doctor has said to us for the last 30 plus years. And that is, you need to lose weight. And I said, great. I've had weight loss surgery. Can you tell me what you would like me to do differently? Because I have physically altered my body and I can't lose weight, and I have tried. And she just looked at me and she stared. She looked at Matt.
She was a little, she definitely did not know how to respond to that.
and I get it, because the medical professionals do not have an answer for people who have tried everything. They only know that, when I do my research, you're going to get better if you lose weight, all kinds of things. And so when I said that, the no, not me was not, I am unwilling. That is not what it means. No, not me can mean hopelessness. It can mean that I don't know how. I can't see a path. I don't see success, all of those things. And so just be aware as we talk tonight, this is not about refusal. So many people might say they refuse, but it's really just they don't believe in themselves. And we need to figure out how to help ourselves and each other believe in ourselves again. You guys, that's my favorite part about helping people is that they start to open their minds. And I love it when clients come to me and say, I think I can do this. Did you see what I just did? And I'm like, I saw it and I want to cheer you on. So we're going to start talking about what pre-contemplation is. I feel like I need, like Matt is Vanna White here, and he's kind of, slide, and he's doing a really good job. It's just a really new version of slide. So in all of our stages of change, we're going to talk about limits and barriers, right? How do we get stuck in this stage of change, and how do we move past it? And so with pre-contemplation, there are 4 barriers, and we're going to go through each one. But the first one is denial and minimization, right? These are how we stay stuck. The second one is rationalization. The third is projection and displacement. Where does the fault belong? And the last one is internalization. And so we're going to go through those separately tonight, so just so we can talk a little more of them. And I want you to be thinking and listening in your heart, where are you stuck? Because this is not about me forcing anything upon you, but I want your heart to speak to you and say, where am I stuck right now? And I hope it helps in whatever way you want to transform. Okay, Matt. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so the first one is denial and minimization. Okay, we're so good at this, right? I don't have a problem. This is it's not that big of a deal. I like the way I am. You guys, I seriously would sit in meetings at work as a professional and say that I was part of the Fat and Happy Club because I knew how to be happy and I knew how to be fat. And that means I had a club, right? But it was a part of denial for me. And it was a part of it was a part of me dealing with my hopelessness, that I couldn't move forward and that I didn't know. And I would say, I'm not that unhealthy. Really? I go to the doctor and she's like, everything's fine. You just need to lose weight. And I get a little older and I have some things that start coming up. And suddenly my body is starting to say, we've been doing this for a long time, Jen. We're a little bit tired and we need to be able to deal with that. And so what is the problem? And your problem may or may not be weight, but I guarantee you we all have areas of health, whether it be relationship health or mental health or physical health, that we need to work on. But saying it's not a problem did not actually make the problem go away. I know, I've tried. And you've tried, right? Anyone actually make their problem go away by just saying it doesn't exist?
I did.
You're lying.
I tried.
You did try. Okay. Then the next thing we say is, I like being this way. I like being super aggressive. I like being the person that everybody hates. Also not true, right? Before this, I was kind of grumpy, right? Because I was tired and I was doing that. And I would take on that attitude of, I am setting limits. And I would tell myself all kinds of things that I was doing to say, it's not that big of a deal. Being this way is not that big of a deal. And then the third one there on there says, I know how to do this. I just need to try harder. And you guys, so many people out there are like, oh, I've got a plan. I have a plan. Well, you probably do have a plan and you've been working on that plan for a long time. But let's be honest, if the plan worked, if it was really something you were capable of doing, then we wouldn't be talking about the plan. We'd be talking about the next area of transformation. And I don't say that to be rude. I say it because as a therapist, I want to be honest. I want to be honest so that you can be honest with yourself and we can all move forward. But the plan, if it's not currently working for you, it doesn't work. So don't go back to your old plan. Come up with a new one and we'll talk about how to do that. All right. Now, the next thing to know is that change is hard. Do not let anyone tell you it's easy, okay? Changing how you think, how you feel, how you act, it took you years to get this way. One of the reasons that sometimes we're so hopeless and we're in denial that we can even think about changing is because it took us years. If you get a minute, put in the chat, how many years have you been stuck with whatever you're stuck with? How many years? Because for me, it was 31 years of dealing with my weight. At the age of 9, I had surgery and I was a state champion swimmer in California and they are serious about swimming out there. And then it all changed and it didn't matter what happened. And so understand that the problems that we have now, especially as we're older, we have been working on those problems for a long time. I want you to look at this graphic that I have because this is one of my favorites. I hate setting people up for failure. I am passionate about helping people succeed. And I love this graphic because it shows what the reality is, right? I think of it, and when I think of it, I think of January, right? The very beginning, right? And we hit the threshold and we buy new shoes and we get our pants on and we go out and we're ready to walk. And we did it. And the next day we're sore because our bodies are not meant to go from 0 to 60. And so the next day we don't go, but then we get our energy up and we go the next day and they do a couple days, but then we're really sore and tired. And we set these limits way too high. And we start failing. And so we have days when we're successful, but we have so many days of failure and we have a hard time calling it failure because failure feels crappy. But we have so many days of failure that we eventually give up and we believe that we can't do it. And the problem was not you. The problem was we set the expectations too high. We said to be successful, I have to be great. And the truth is, to be successful, you just need to be a little bit better. And that little bit better is just a little step. And every day I have to be a little bit better, or every 3 hours I have to make a better choice, whatever that is. But understand that do not shame yourself because change is hard and say, well, I'm just no good at this. Nobody is good at doing something they're not good at. And that's all you're setting yourself up for if you don't make little changes. All right, so we're going to talk about rationalization. This is the part of our mind that says it's not that big of a deal, right? Or I can't do it. On the screen here, I have a copy of Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. And I want you to look at the very, very bottom row. They're in red. And it says on there several things. The one that we're talking about, and then I'm going to use an example today, is food, right? If I am eating, I am alive, right? And it doesn't matter if I am eating crap or if I'm eating anything else. I've met that need. But the problem is that your body knows that what you're putting into it isn't healthy. And when it knows it's not healthy, then it's going to fight back and it's going to say, we haven't met this goal. You think it's checked off your list? You think just because you're not in the hospital today, you're healthy? I'm going to have to say you're wrong. The lack of being sick is not the same thing as being healthy. And your body knows that and your mind knows that. So look ahead. If I start looking at security, right? We talk about body image, right? We could blow up the comments about body image and what our issues are. But the reason that we have body image issues is because we don't feel safe. When our bodies aren't healthy, we don't feel safe. If we don't feel safe and we don't feel healthy, we have a really hard time believing that we're loved and that we belong. And then if we have a hard time feeling that we love and belong and we're not safe because we're not healthy, then we have a hard time liking ourselves and we start treating ourselves worse. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about treating ourselves badly for no good reason. And then we're really not dreaming and we're not becoming all that we're meant to become. And we become just normal, average. And you're saying what's wrong with normal and average? That's because I know with all my heart, you were not meant to be average. You were meant to be exceptional. That's what the goal is to be exceptional. So when you're eating average or even, let's just call it not so average food, then that's what you're setting yourself up for. And so what I learned, and I had no idea about, is that when I started taking care of my body, the rest of me, whether it was my safety, my love and belonging, my self-esteem, my self-actualization, that belief in myself that I could do good things, it all changed. It all changed because I started fueling myself differently. And I know we want to minimize and say, oh, that eating part is not that big of a deal, right? I can still do all those things. You would have done it by now. And you haven't, and I hadn't, and I get that, but I just want you to know that there's options out there. There's options to be successful. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, and this is really important. I want you to look. Where are you at? Are you just not sick, or are you healthy? Because I had no idea what healthy felt like. I had no idea. I couldn't remember back all those years ago. I just knew I didn't feel good and I was grumpy, and it was everyone else's fault. I was grumpy, right? It wasn't mine. It wasn't about not taking care of myself. It was just everyone else's. But if you're everyone else's thoughts and responses, sorry, I didn't finish that sentence. I do that sometimes, ask Matt. But we need to focus not only on just not being sick, but on being healthy. And we need to start being willing to invest in that concept. If you want to do great things, and I mean great things like love your family, I mean great things like show your children how to live a happy life, and I mean great things like teach others what it's like to feel passion and excitement, then you're going to have to start focusing on doing more than just not being sick and saying, oh, I woke up and I'm not sick today, and that's a win. It is not a win. It's just not a loss. Okay. All right, so projection and displacement. This concept, so these are two mental concepts, right? And these are barriers. These are things that keep us stuck. Projection is believing that the fault lies outside of us, right? It would be really easy for me to say that the medical community or anyone else failed me, and I'm just mad at them. It's their fault, right? Or I could project it on my boss. He doesn't pay me enough to take care of myself. Or I could project it on my kids. They don't give me enough time to take care of myself. We can project it on all kinds of people, right? The second one is displacement, where we believe the fault shifts from you to anyone else, right? And we start to become a victim. My friends, transformation starts with owning our problems. It starts with owning what we need to do. I'm actually really proud of Matt. He did not come to me and say, Jen, I will only do this if you do it with me. He did it whether I was going to do it or not. And when I started seeing his transformation, just like some of you, I was impressed. And I wanted to see that same transformation in myself. Successful people take ownership of themselves. Successful people will move forward. Unsuccessful people will blame and they'll be grumpy. And you will notice them because they're grumpy and they're unsuccessful. Don't be those people. Okay, so internalization. This is one of those big things that we all do, right? One of the things that starts when we're a teenager and we can start thinking about our own thoughts is we start to worry about what everyone else thinks of us and what we think of ourselves. And we start to have lots of symptoms of shame. Shame is the belief that I am not good enough. There is something fundamentally wrong with me. And it's very different than guilt. Guilt is a belief that you are not doing something right, which means it can change. But shame is debilitating because when we feel shame, we believe we're stuck. We believe there's no hope. And I'll be really honest. I work with kids who believe there's no hope, and the desperate things they do when they are hopeless scare me, and they scare their families. Some of us are living in shame. Some of us we believe that we're not good enough, and we're having all these symptoms, right? We're isolating, we're irritable, we're afraid, we're sleeping more or less, we're anxious, we're eating our feelings, right? Because we can't just own our feelings, so we have to eat them. We're sad, we're lonely. I don't want you to be sad and lonely, but to do that, I can't fix it. I can't be your hero. I can only encourage you to be your own hero. But I want you to think about that because we all have areas of shame. And for me, health is an area of shame that I've had to overcome. I don't like the idea that I'm not healthy. Matt and I like to get things done, and I can think of a lot of things I've accomplished. And then there's that area of health. And every year for the last 4 years, I've had a major health emergency. Major. And I didn't feel like there was anything I could do to stop it until this year. And I did not have one this year because I started taking control of my health and I found something that worked. Okay, Vanna. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about some transformation skills towards, because I want to give you some ideas of what can you do. Okay, Jen, I'll own it. This is my problem. I can see my barrier. One of the things I love about working with adults is that you guys, your brains are fully formed, which is so much better than teenagers whose brains are not fully formed, and it makes it a lot easier. Okay, so success focus. So if you want to be successful and whatever you're going to do to transform, you need to set the level of threshold low. You need to say, I need to figure out what I can be successful at today. And whatever that is, do that. If I can be successful at standing up for 2 extra minutes, then stand up for 2 extra minutes. You can do that every day. And the great thing about knowing you can do it every day is when you are doing it, you'll suddenly choose the next thing and say, well, if I could stand up for 2 minutes, then maybe I could park a little bit further. Maybe I could start being able to try harder. Sorry, there's someone in our front yard, you guys. I'm a little distracted. But maybe I could try and go for a walk. And if I can do that consistently, maybe I'll try to run. And suddenly I went from standing for 2 minutes, which was super easy for me, to building my threshold of tolerance so that I could do other things that were super easy for me. But they weren't easy because I got off the couch. I don't know who started this whole couch to 5K thing. Somebody who really wanted to fail, I guess, because that's all we're doing is setting people up. We need to be able to set ourselves up for success. And little habits, little changes, little things are what got us there. We're going to tell you our story in a minute of our weight loss, and you're going to see some big numbers. Big numbers.
And we're not done yet. Because just because we hit that first goal, then you build on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and keep going. And I love that. That was not a concept that I ever recognized or realized 7 months ago. I had goals my entire life, and when those all came to fruition about a year and a half ago, I was kind of lost at what to do next and didn't have the open mindset to think outside a little further. So this is a picture of both Jen and myself, both starting the pictures of each of us that are on the left. We're back in basically January of this year. So just about 7 months ago. In that time, you can see there is a huge difference between the picture on the left and the picture on the right. And to give you a little bit of my background of everything, about a year ago, a doctor put me on type 2 diabetes medications because my blood sugar levels were way out of whack. And every couple of weeks I'd go in and visit him and he'd say, Matthew, your numbers are going up again. Your medications need to increase again. And he kept going on to me and asking, okay, what are we going to do about this? Because if you don't stop, if something doesn't change in your life, one, you may not be here, but the more immediate action is I'm going to put you on insulin or even higher dose of multiple medications that were hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And
had some really bad side effects. We won't go into them, but they were bad.
The medication side effects were horrible. And having gone through, like Jen mentioned before, trying to start our family and do IVF, we'd experienced needles and injections on a multiple time per day basis with Jen. I didn't have to do that, luckily, and I wasn't going to do that. And so I actually had broke down and I was going to go and do weight loss surgery. It was kind of my last ditch effort. I've tried diets. I've tried different things my entire life. Nothing ever worked that I could sustain or that I felt was working. And so I was kind of at a dark and depressed point come this last holiday season. And I had set up the consultation with the weight loss clinic that we were looking at, and actually had the appointment set up for a Tuesday morning. And that same morning, my appointment I think was at 11 or 12 that afternoon. And that morning I read a big article in the paper about the clinic I was looking at being in a class action lawsuit because their patients were ending up in the hospital for 6 or 9 or even longer months at a time with major complications and issues that would basically, if that happened to us, would bankrupt us. I knew that I would lose my job, I would lose our home. I say that it would lose my marriage. My wife doesn't agree with that, but we would have lost it all, and it wasn't worth it. And so I had, again, just gone back to, well, nothing's worked. This is not an option, and I'm going to just be this way for a few more years. I will make sure my wife is set up financially with a decent life insurance policy, and I will pass on in 5 or 6 years. And thinking about that now, how sad that actually was to even have that. That was a plan. That was something. I'm like, I can control this. This is what I'm going to do.
Can I just stop you? Guys, that's a suicide plan.
Yeah.
Can we just be really honest for a minute? I'm just going to let myself die. That's a suicide plan. Don't let yourself die.
Yeah. So luckily that same day, it literally was the same day that I had the appointment set up that I then canceled. I saw the article in the paper. I started seeing posts on Facebook about our Optivia program that we are now involved in. And I reached out to my health coach and asked, well, she wasn't my health coach at that point. She was just a friend of mine who was sharing a little bit of her success. And I reached out and asked, what are you doing? What is it? Because she was dropping weight just very quickly and I could notice a huge change in her personality and her appearance and so many other things. And so she and I got on the phone and I said, okay, I have to give this a shot. I don't know what it is. I will give you 1 month guarantee. It's not going to work for me, but I have to try something. So I said, okay. And I got started. And then I let the order show up at our home, and I let it sit on the kitchen floor for 2 weeks. And I went back to the doctor again, and he actually was ready to write me an insulin prescription that day. And I said, no, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to fill it there. Don't waste your time. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? I said, I have a plan. There's a box on my kitchen floor. I'm going to get started. And he's like, great. What's holding you back? I said, well, I guess I haven't recognized that I really want to do this. And he's like, Matthew, you're not going to live if you don't do something. I don't care what it is. I want you to try something new. And I said, okay, I have a box at home. I'm going to do it. And when I originally signed up doing this program with my health coach, she asked me what my goal weight was to lose. And I immediately said, well, I would love to lose 100 pounds in a year. I said, but that's just not a realistic number that I could foresee actually happening. I said, let's shoot. If I could lose 40 pounds in 1 year, I would be amazed. And it would be a win in my book, and I would continue on. And she just kind of chuckled and said, okay, that's a great goal. I'll support you. Let's get you going. And I said, okay. So when I finally decided to actually start a few weeks later, I didn't really check the progress as I went along, because I knew it wasn't going to work. I was going to send it back, and it was just another checkbox on the failed list, and I was going to move on. And so it was time, basically a month later, time to reorder for the next month or cancel and get my money back. And I said, okay, well, I better check out what I'm doing so I have a reason to tell them that I'm quitting. And I jumped on that scale. Well, didn't jump because I couldn't jump at that point. And I was down 39 pounds in 26 days, which is amazing. And I was absolutely shocked and blown away that, first off, I couldn't tell I had lost that much weight. I mean, I could a little bit. My pants were a little bigger. I could tell a little bit, but I had no idea until I looked at that number. And I was in disbelief for a few days. And so I said, well, it's working. Okay, so I might as well keep going. Why stop? Let's give it another 30 days. And that one came and went, and another 30 days, and that one came and went. And so in this picture, you're seeing today, the one there in front of the fireplace in the pink shirt, which is 7 months, almost to the day. Tomorrow will be 7 months, and I'm down 176 pounds. So in that 7 months, not only has my confidence come back, my peace in my life has come back. My goals and my desires and my dreams are all readily available things that I can achieve again. And the best part is I'm off of all medications and enjoying life again. And so it's been absolutely amazing to go through this transformation and to be able to share what we have found to work for us and what we know can work for others. And so it took Jen a couple months after, as she mentioned before, that I jumped in by myself and decided it didn't matter what anyone else thought. I was going to try this, and it took her a few months to get on board with me. And so why don't you share a little bit about that?
I think it comes down to, so I was really focused on getting pregnant, and we had been doing our IVF treatments, and nobody feels good on those. Let's just be honest for a minute. And then we found out we weren't pregnant, and that was really hard. And then Matt decided to sell our house. Sometimes he does that. Hopefully not anytime soon, but
you got a few more months.
Stop. But that was really hard. And I kept saying, I'll start later. And we had a vacation, and I decided to start after a vacation. And if I could tell anything back to Jennifer in January of 2019, I would say, don't wait. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And you guys, our lab work for infertility, we'll just say it's good. The Oxfords someday are going to have a baby. We're not making an announcement yet, but we are. And that's just one of the transformations.
No. We're not making the announcement.
Right. Well, did I make that? We're not pregnant. Sorry.
Not that we know of.
Stop. Okay. But we know we're going to have a family, and we know other dreams of ours are coming true, and we are so excited. And so when we talk about the fact that health is the first step to self-actualization, we are not joking, because we believe that. with our whole heart. This is a miracle for us. This has changed our life. And I know some of you, whether you've said it out loud or just in your heart, are praying for your own miracles. So I'm going to go through a couple things real quick. Oh, I should say, in those 7 months, I've lost 97 pounds. I was a little late to the game, but I'm catching up quickly, and we are loving it. And the thing is I know we're going to make those goals and we're going to surpass them. And you guys, you keep watching us, but please join us on this process. We appreciate all the support, but we do not want to get healthy alone. We want to bring you guys with us so that you can feel as good as we feel, because just sitting at home, remember that picture at the very beginning, just sitting at home watching us get healthy? That's not cool. Come get healthy with us. So let me go over a couple things about pre-contemplation before we wrap up here real quick. Okay, so my suggestion to you, right? I'm going to get real. I can be a therapist all day long and teach you all this stuff, but here's the challenge. Okay, if you want to take this and you want to transform and you want to get out of pre-contemplation, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to be willing to explore. Be curious about what your life could be like. And this is hard. This is hard to be curious if you thought there's no hope. Okay, but I've got some questions up there. A, what are you minimizing? We're all minimizing something, right? Some of us are minimizing our weight on our driver's license. That may or may not be true. Okay, some of us are minimizing how good our marriage is. Some of us are minimizing how happy we are with our job. Whatever it is, I encourage you to stop. Are you just not sick? Are you just not upset? Are you just not bored? Be happy, be healthy, and be excited. Okay? How much time do you really have to do it all by yourself? I've had so many people say, well, I know how to do this. I'll be really honest. If you knew how to do this, it would be done. Human beings do not just sit on their answers. They would be done. Okay? And then I want you to ask, are you really valuing yourself? You're right. It's going to be an investment. You want to talk about the investment? Talk to the person who invited you. But I guarantee you it's going to pay off. But you have to be willing to value yourself, and you have to prove it. Don't just tell me you're fat and happy. I don't want to hear that. I know you. Okay? You have to be willing to invest in yourself emotionally, mentally, with your time, and in all the ways that you need to. And it will pay off so big. So big. Okay? Then I want to talk about rationalization. What are you doing in your head, people? It's getting messy up there. Clean out those dreams. Pull them out and look at them and say, what is it I really want out of my life? Invest in your future. What does your future self want? And start giving that gift to your future self. Sometimes I think about stopping, and then I think, it's not worth it, because in 3 months, I'm just going to be stuck again. And I hate feeling stuck. I hate it. I want to be successful. Okay? Who owns your transformations right now? This is called the art of transformation. This is not Bob Ross. We are not just watching people paint pretty trees, okay? Own your own transformation. I can't own it for you. I can support you. I can cheer you on. Your friends can do the same, but you need to own your transformation and be your own creator in your life. What excuses are you making up that say you're comfortable? We are creatures of comfort. We want to be comfortable. And you know what? To transform, you're going to get uncomfortable, and it's going to be awesome. Don't be afraid of being uncomfortable. Be afraid of being stuck. Okay? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up to get what you want? If you're not willing to give up where you're at right now, then your dreams are not big enough. And I suggest you go back to the board and say, what do I really want? And when you start really attaching to your heart, you'll be willing to give up things. Are you done not having hope? That one's hard. It's hard. You guys have lived lives. You have evidence. You have evidence in your brain and in your history that say, I should give up. I know it's hard to hope. Matt and I are here to hope for you until you can see it. We know it's hard. Just do it. Just try it. Give it 30 days. You never know. You might be down 39 pounds. Who knows? That's not the typical result. I should probably say that, but who knows? What are you willing to create? I love the idea of being a creator. Oh, we need to create things in our life. Are you willing to be fully present? Stop living in the past. Stop sitting across from the doctor and say, I had weight loss surgery and nothing ever helped. So, I dare you to get me healthy. Don't do that. Don't do it to the doctor. Don't do it to us. That's rude. Okay? But really let yourself be willing to create. Be fully present in your life and know that you get to choose what happens tomorrow. You get to choose. Okay, it's not just destiny. You get to choose. Okay, what would you do? What would you be if you could be anyone? If you had no limits, what would you do? Do that. Take those limits, and if you're a spiritual person, start praying on them, but start working on them. But do not just sit at them and glare at them and say, they're my limits. I'm going to start cuddling up with them every night. Break them down. Be a force of nature in your own life. Okay, and the last one, what would you be if you could be anything? Be your best version. We are meant to be the best version of ourselves. You are amazing. You are meant to be amazing, and I want you to know that I believe in you. I am so excited for next week. We're gonna talk about contemplation, right? So if you're like, I am ready to do this, call whoever invited you, talk to them about the program. They want to help you, right? Get started. You can start anytime, right? You don't have to wait till you've got all 6 webinars. I'm going to do them whether you start today or not. 6 weeks from now, you're going to say, why didn't I start? That's what we look at. And we said, why didn't we start? Okay. I told you, I wish I could go back and have started earlier. But no, we're going to be here, and I hope that this really was helpful to you. We'll be posting the next invitation soon. And remember, if you are starting to think, well, maybe it's time for me to change, I'm excited. You're going to do amazing things. You're going to do amazing things. Thank you guys so much for tonight. We'll talk to you soon. See you next week.